Hi, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Full Court Podcast with your host, Orazio Cauchi. As we continue our journey through Europe, now is the time to talk a little bit about Greece and how Greek teams are going so far in the EuroLeague, but we're going to focus also on another couple of things that are not necessarily EuroLeague related. And in order to do this, my guest for this week is my colleague at BasketNews.com, Giorgos Kyriakidis. Giorgos, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you.
Nice to have you too, Orazio, in this podcast.
So, as I said, with Giorgos, we're going to talk about Greece, Greek basketball, and of course, we're going to start right away with the biggest thing for Greek basketball as of right now: the great season that Olympiakos is having in EuroLeague. After a difficult season last year, Olympiakos looks definitely back on track. They had a very good summer with a couple of very good additions that so far have performed really, really well. And the record is great. Olympiakos is currently at the third place with 11 wins and just 5 losses. As of right now, they have the best net rating in EuroLeague, second best offensive rating, and third best defensive rating. So when you look at the numbers, clearly Olympiakos is having a fantastic season. Personally, I expected them to be definitely better than last season, but probably I did not anticipate them to be this good, this quick. And they've been absolutely a nightmare to play against, especially because with their defensive pressure, they make things very, very difficult for their opponents. They protect the rim very, very well. It's really hard to get an offensive rebound against Olympiakos. So, Giorgos, I wanted to ask you, what were your expectation about Olympiakos, coming into this season? And were you also a little bit surprised about this great start of the season that they're having?
Yes, I was also taken aback by the fact that Olympiakos have managed to claim 11 wins for only 5 losses so far, to tell you the truth, and by the quality, the basketball quality that Giorgos' team managed to produce. So far, Olympiakos made some quality moves during the summer, which were kind of underestimated, I think, because Mustafa Fall and Tyler Dorsey and Thomas Walkup as well were very good additions, considering and comparing to what Olympiakos fans and the team in the roster were used to all over the last couple of years, especially. There were huge upgrades compared to their predecessors. If you think that Olympiakos, prior to acquiring Dorsey, Fall, had other players underperforming, we can think of some names, but I don't want to mention them. The thing is that the team is performing to a great level, I would say, so far in the EuroLeague and the Greek League as well, excluding the derby against Panathinaikos, where some things happened that may or may not occur in the upcoming derby against Panathinaikos. But the thing is that Olympiakos are much more than a home court team, which was the general impression, I would say, in Greece in the first game days of the EuroLeague, because they were unbeatable at home. They were delivering great performances, but outside the Peace and Friendship Stadium, they were dealing with some issues and problems, apart from the Barcelona game that was decided in overtime. They lost quite easily, I would say, to CSKA Moscow. They then went on to lose to Zenit, to Anadolu Efes. It was a blowout win, but the match was decided in the last quarter, where Olympiakos received a 23, if I'm not mistaken, a partial score from the Turkish side. I want to say that Olympiakos so far are a more than decent team. They're a team that are aiming high, at least, at the playoffs. I would said that Olympiakos were destined to be a playoff team even before the season tipped off, to tell you the truth. But I didn't expect them to be third at this point in the season, so deep in the season, and to have a clear view at maybe the home court advantage when the regular season finishes.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you. I wanted to ask you also a little bit about the season that Sasha Vezenkov is having, because his impact on the team has been absolutely amazing. And I mean, we always knew that he was a very good player, but this season it looks like he's going to a different level. What do you think was the main change for him this season, considering how well he's playing so far?
Apart from his contract extension until 2024, which almost certainly played a crucial part in his morale boosting, was in September, 3 months ago, that the 2-year contract extension with Vezenkov was announced by Olympiakos, was very important. I think that Vezenkov is following in Nikola Milutinov's footsteps in a way, because Milutinov, if you remember, did a very good 2016-17 season, then went on to be the starting center of Olympiakos. He wasn't supposed to be that important, then that crucial of a player in the rotation, then became the dominant center we all know. And from that point on, his market value increased rapidly, and Olympiakos couldn't cope with his contract. Practically, that's what happened. Then he moved to CSKA. Now the administration, the management of Olympiakos, I think, made the right decision to keep Vezenkov quickly enough before other teams got in the mix and made some very lucrative offers to him. And that's very good for Olympiakos. Vezenkov has expanded, I would say, his game. He's not a one-dimensional shooter, because that's what he was. When he played with Aris in the past, when he went to Barcelona, he didn't have a clear role, I would say, with many coaches and with an uncertain management there in Barcelona also, because Barcelona were dealing with many problems, administrative problems.
The situation was very complicated in Barcelona.
Yes. And then at Olympiakos, the situation changed, not immediately, but first with coach David Blatt, then with Barzokas. Printezis, I would say, backed down a little bit. He plays has minimum playing time this season. Some games he doesn't suit up at all during Olympiakos games. He plays 5 or 10 minutes. That's his role. It's his last season anyway, as it appears. So Vezenkov is the starting power forward. He rebounds the ball very well. He's capable of switching to a so-so level, I would say. Not as he would be expected to, but if you recall the Panathinaikos Olympiacos game that Tyrese Rice scored 41 points 2 years ago, it was a nightmare for him. He couldn't guard Rice anywhere. Rice scored, if I remember correctly, 9 3-pointers in that game. He broke all records, personal and club records for Panathinaikos. Now he's very improved in that part as well. He's a very good scorer. He remains a very good scorer, and his instincts have led him to a completely different level. He's quicker also. His decision making is a lot quicker.
Yeah, and absolutely clear that this season is much more confident and much more feeling like is in the best situation for him. So now let's try to move on a little bit from Olympiakos, and on the other end, of course, we have Panathinaikos, who's struggling a lot this season. So far, only 4 wins for them in the EuroLeague. They are at the 17th place, so the situation has been very, very difficult. Of course, the roster has already been through some changes. Yogi Ferrell came and went real quick. And now also G.I. Floyd has left the team to join Fenerbahce. Other changes might come in the coming weeks. So there's been a lot of troubles for Panathinaikos so far. The offense just hasn't worked so far. He hasn't been very productive. Also defensively, they had several issues. It looked like for a while that Coach Priftis was able to fix some of those issues defensively with a very abundant use of the defensive zone system. But of course, as we all know, the zone is not something that can be very sustainable for the long term. So in your opinion, Giorgos, of course, personally, I didn't have like a lot of expectation on Panathinaikos this season because they had, a difficult summer. They were able to keep around Papapetrou, which was, of course, very important for them because losing him would have been definitely a big issue, but they weren't able to surround him with the necessarily level of talent. So, in your perspective, what has been the main issue for Panathinaikos so far, and what's your expectation on them, going forward for this season?
It's a lot of things. I think the main thing, because everything stems from the top. If you don't have this, I would say, administrative security, who's in charge of Panathinaikos right now?
Yeah.
Who makes the decisions? What's the available budget for players, for changing players even during the season?
Yeah.
We saw that even last year. Now, as you said, G.I. Floyd is moving to Fenerbahce. Priftis yesterday said that there hasn't been any decision made about whether Panathinaikos are going to get a player to replace Floyd or not. It's this status of uncertainty that keeps some fans, of course not all fans, away from the team, and no one knows what the future will hold for them. It's difficult for players to also to stay with the team, as for example, Dinos Mitoglou had the chance to go to Armani Milan, and that's what he chose. It's Mari Hezonia who said that practically there was a misunderstanding during the summer, and the coach told him other things. He kind of waited until the club decided what to do with other renewal of contracts. Nedovic, Papapetrou, Mitoglou that was gone. Eventually, it was a complete mess, I would say. Of course, PAO would like to win the derby against Olympiakos. Okay, it's mostly to me a matter of pride rather than anything else. They're 4-12 in the EuroLeague right now. Even if they win, nothing will change in their status, their team dynamic or their goals this season. The first and foremost goal, I would say, is the Greek League and the Greek Cup as well. So in this sense, I guess the game against Lavrio on the 27th of December is more important than maybe the derby. The derby is very important in terms of morale, in terms of pride, in terms of the past and the tradition between the two teams. And to me, it's impressive that actually this PAO team is performing even worse than last year. Yeah. But there are some reasons, obviously, for it. One thing that stands out is the Nedovic-Macon dynamic and how well one performs without the other one getting in the way. If you see, most of Macon's big games came when Nedovic was either absent or confined to a secondary role because of his poor form at the time. When the Serb got his groove back, he gave a one-man show in Piraeus. He's definitely the game changer, the absolute game changer for Panathinaikos. Macon needs the ball in his hands to feel comfortable, and that's the only problem for them to coexist somehow.
Yeah. Of course, as you said, there is always, especially in the last few years, there's been a lot of uncertainty surrounding Panathinaikos. On that front, can we expect some updates? Some major news about the ownership situation? Maybe, I don't know, next summer. If there will be some changes, or do you believe that this type of uncertainty, will continue going forward?
Yeah, I think that it all has to do with what happens with the football stadium that Panathinaikos are intending to build near the Athens city center. Okay, it's not in the city center, but it's located in a place that means of public transport can access. I mean, it's a solution that has been put forward. Panathinaikos have to vote on it in order for it to proceed. I'm not sure it will be anywhere soon for this football stadium to be built and for the project to be completed. Regardless of that, Panathinaikos have to find some funds, get sponsors, get advertising rights or whatever it takes to increase their budget. Their budget is not that insufficient in order to field a competitive team. That's very important to say, because we've seen other teams like Red Star, for instance, like Alba Berlin, be very competitive and play decent basketball with some principles. Panathinaikos, I think, lack all of these things, especially this year. It's surprising to me because Chris is a good coach. Has also a very good reputation in Greece, and his work in Kazan was admirable for the most part, including reaching last year's Eurocup finals. But anyway, Panathinaikos need to get some clear decisions, I would say, ahead of the future, because Papagiannis' contract is expiring in 2022. No one knows what will happen, and they have to get the groove back, as I said earlier.
Yeah. So of course, this week we're gonna have also the Greek derby between Olympiakos and Panathinaikos. Considering all the things that we said so far, it's clear that Olympiakos is the favorite in the game. But from your perspective, what can we expect from this game?
Another issue will be zone defense. Olympiakos will make or not make shots this time around. Pristis will have to be ready to adjust his plans if Olympiakos start hitting some shots that the hosts, Panathinaikos, that is, are inevitably going to allow. If Vezenkov and Dorsey get hot, it will be hard to stop them. Panathinaikos are one big guy short because of Jihai Floyd moving to Fenerbahce. But Olympiakos or Quincy AC get hospitalized this week with acute tonsillitis. AC had been sick for 2-3 days before the game in Piraeus, and overall he has been battling injuries for a long time now since he set foot in Greece. So I would say that Olympiakos are definitely holding a slight edge ahead of this game. Although, it's kind of a cliche to say that there are no favorites in a derby. One cannot overlook how both teams have done so far in the EuroLeague. Panathinaikos have this home court advantage, which is very important in those cases, given the fact that the atmosphere at Oaka will have nothing to do maybe with the previous games. There were 5,000 or 6,000 fans of Panathinaikos on average in their previous matches. This time around, we're expecting more than 12,000, which is the maximum allowed limit for fans in any, say, closed installation in Greece. So they will support the team and the players in the derby.
So for, let's say, the last part of this podcast, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about, let's say, a smaller team, but that is doing very good things in the last few years in Greece. We're talking about Lavrio, who is playing in Basketball Champions League this season. Last season, they were able to reach the finals of the Greek league for the first time in their history. It's kind of a recent team because it was founded in 1990, and it's a small team from the north side of Athens, if I remember correctly. And there is, of course, an expectation that this team shouldn't be there in a way because it's a very small team. But in the last few years, they've been doing great things. and they look like they have a nose for talent, because they found some very good players. Alpha Diallo, we've been seeing, what Tyson Carter has been able to do it. And of course, Tyson Carter now is gonna move, because he's joining Zenit. So I wanted to ask you, what's the general perception in Greece about Lavrio, and what's, in your opinion, they were able to do so well so far? Why they were able to do so well so far?
Okay, first of all, I have to say that Lavrio are hosting Unicaja Malaga tonight. If they win, they go through. If they lose, they want Nizhny to lose to Dijon in Russia in order to qualify as third in the group. So it's probably the most important game in their history so far. Lavrio have made great strides over the last 3 years. They were nearly relegated in 2019 when Panathinaikos decided to forfeit a home game against Kimi, protesting about the referees chosen for an Olympiakos Prometheas game. I guess that story isn't that known outside of Greece. But anyway, Olympiakos had made clear back then that they would only play Panathinaikos with non-Greek referees present, and any other Greek team without the 3 certain referees who were doomed let's say persona non grata back then, who they think they were biased towards them in any way. But Lavrio merged with Kimi in 2019, keeping their name. They built an impressive team last year that no one expected, spearheaded by Greek former Olympiakos guard Vasilis Mouratos, by Tyson Carter and Boris Diallo, as you said. Alpha Diallo, not Boris Diallo.
Yeah.
Of course. They reached the Cup semi-finals. They eliminated Prometheas in the league semis and lost 3-1 to Panathinaikos in the finals. Overall, they've been the most pleasant surprise in the Greek league. This season is a tad different, because they also have some BCL games. Team chemistry is not great, and they needed to make some changes. Tyson Carter kept posting great numbers in all competitions and will soon be released to move to Zenit. Carter was on Olympiakos radar last summer, but from the moment Tyler Dorsey was available, his case didn't go any further. Now he will be joining a club that has extensive knowledge of the Greek market, because there's Xavi Pascual, who's been to Greece, assistant coaches Inigo Thorthano and Diamantis Panagiotopoulos, general manager Marf Papadopoulos as well, plus another former player who became a EuroLeague candidate, who's Connor Frankamp. Overall, I'm referring to Frankamp, the guard from Kansas has had many ups and downs in his EuroLeague debut season, which is normal, because Shabazz Napier's injury has allowed him to get some more minutes. Now we'll see how Carter, who's more of a shooting and less of a point guard, will fit in. It's worth noting, Orazio, that Christos Serelis, the coach of Lavrio, is a coach with a reputation for finding many American players right after they finish high school or college, like Kevin Punter, who played there in 2016-17 before moving to Belgium, Poland, AEK, with whom he won the BCL, and then Virtus Bologna, of course, and we all know what happened next. Alpha Diallo was there last year. Panathinaikos signed him, but he was let go because he wasn't Priftis' choice. That's what happened. Serelis has an eye for players, and it's not a coincidence that Carter thanked him for his help. That's the case with Lavrio. Lavrio have been turning heads all over Europe, I would say, the last 2 years. But it's very soon for them to go any further. Their budget is not big. They're not among the 4 or 5 richest teams, let's say, in Greece. Overall, the situation in Greek clubs is far from ideal, I would say. If you consider the results of the majority of Greek clubs, excluding Olympiakos, Lavrio, or maybe PAO, because I got eliminated from the BCL. It's the first time that something like that happened so early in the season. I think that their entire season got irreparably damaged because of what happened with Stefan Yelovac, of course. It was a huge blow for them. Also, PAOK have another BCL game against Igokea on December 29. If they win that one, they will have the home court advantage in the play-ins. It's a best of 3 series in the BCL. If they lose, they will need Galatasaray, who are indifferent. They're already first in the group, to beat Nymburk in Prague. Otherwise, they're out. But in PAOK's case, I think with some financial help coming from Ivan Savidis, who's the owner of the football club, they have nearly managed to erase the most part of their debt to former employees, athletes, and coaches mostly. And with Coach Aros Likoyannis fitting in with the club's mentality right away, they can be even better next year. Prometheas, who have 2 wins and 5 losses in the Eurocup group, they have to beat Venezia to stand any chance, I think, of going through to the next round. They had Luis Casimiro, the Spanish coach, at the beginning of the season. That was his first experience outside Spain. But that 30-point loss against Burg hurt a lot, and he was dismissed. Then Ilias Zouros came in. He's trying to make some corrections. He will definitely need to change some players, but Prometheas are a serious club, and this year's budget is lower compared to what former coach Makis Yatras had to administer, let's say. There are also Peristeri, who failed miserably this season, to tell you the truth. They're having an almost disastrous season because they hosted the BCL qualifier group, were eliminated. Then they moved to Eurocup, to FIBA Europe Cup, where they didn't even come close to qualifying. They built a decent, a very good roster, I would say, including players with significant experience like Katsivelis, Chrysikopoulos, Moreira, Ian Miller, Karen Petaway, among others. They failed. Iraklis are in a similar position from Thessaloniki. They've changed coaches, players come and go, but the team is still at the bottom of the table in Greece and failed to qualify in the FIBA Europe Cup as well. Overall, Orazio, if we're referring to Greece, in terms of players, I think that the most pleasant surprise this season has been Eugene German of Ionikos. He's 24. He's a rather undersized guard. He won 1.83 meters, but averages 22 points per game. He only shoots 29% from 3, but you can't have it all. He gives less than 2 assists also, but I'd like to see him in a better team. There's also Nikos Kougas, because we were talking about Panathinaikos and their future. He signed with PAO last summer. He is out on loan at Ionikos. I would say that he's not showing the progress one would expect of him this season. He only averages 8 points on 4 of 31 3-pointers overall in the Greek league. Panathinaikos already have Papapetrou, have Mandzukas, Lefteris Mandzukas, not to mention, Okaro White and Jeremy Evans in this season's roster. I'm not sure what their future will look like with the Greens, who can play the power forward positions. I'm curious to see how Kougas will fit in next year.
Okay. So we reached the end of this brand new episode of Full Court Podcast. Of course, I want to thank you, Giorgos, for all this great information about Greek basketball. It was great having you on the podcast, man.
Thank you, Orazio.
And for Full Court Podcast, I just wanted to remind you that now Full Court Podcast is also available in the audio version on Spotify. Of course, you will still find the YouTube version of the podcast on our website, on the BasketNews YouTube channel. And of course, I want to also to remind you to follow basketnews.com to find all great contents about European basketball. So thank you very much for everyone who watched us. And we will see you very, very soon.